Hi guys, BellaDonna Black here, and this following story comes from the subreddit Let's Never Meet. So, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. I've known my best friend for as long as I can remember. I live in a small town with lots of farms and forest, and most houses are separated by patches of woods. We grew up on the same street, a little over a quarter of a mile away from each other, and both went to daycare centre that was in between our two houses. I was the first one who started going there. As the first time my parents dropped me off, I was about a year old. I was 4 when Macy first came, and the first thing I remember ever saying to her was, "Do you want to be my best friend?" From that moment, we were pretty much inseparable. We never went to Macy's house. Always mine. She would also never talk about her family. I was always dropped off after she was, and always picked up before her, so I never got to even see what her parents looked like. That was until we were around 6. For her birthday, she had invited me over to her house to have cake, and as her best friend, I was obliged to attend. When I got there, I met her mother. She was old, much older than the mother of a 6-year-old should be, and I was really confused, but didn't ask about it because my parents had raised me to be more respectful than that. Macy, however, seemed to know I was clueless and curious, and put me into her bedroom away from her mum to explain. All she told me was that she was adopted because her real mummy couldn't take care of her anymore. I was 6, so that was more than enough to satisfy my childish curiosity, and we celebrated her birthday without me questioning it any further. The cake her mum had made was delicious, and I gave her my present as we laughed and giggled and played dress up like young girls tend to do. At around 6:30, there was a call to the house that her mum answered, and immediately after she picked up the phone, she hung up and called my mum to bring me home. I was, of course, disappointed because I had planned to spend the night there. However, Macy's mum just assured me that there would be some last-minute changes and we could have a sleepover another time. I said my goodbyes and my mum took me home, and I never thought much of it. The next day, I tried to call Macy to see if she could hang out, but no one picked up. The day after that was Monday, so I had to return to school, but Macy didn't show up. It wasn't until Wednesday that I saw her again, and she invited me back to her house. When I got there, her mum was out running errands, so we had her adoptive older brother, who was in high school, to babysit us. He was far more interested in video games than us, so we were pretty much home alone in her bedroom. Right away, she showed me this China doll, one that looked eerily like her, and told me that her dad had given it to her as a present. I was once again very curious, as there was no pictures of an adult man anywhere in the house, and her mum didn't wear a ring. I was too young to fully understand the concept of divorce, so in my eyes, no ring meant they were never married. I also didn't understand that you could have kids without being married, so I was thoroughly perplexed. When I asked her about her dad, she simply told me she had gone to see him, which was why our sleepover had to be postponed. When I asked where her dad lived, she told me far away, and that he wasn't allowed here. She wouldn't say anything else, and got really quiet, fumbling with the doll whenever I mentioned him again. After that, the topic was never brought up. The next year on her birthday, we had our sleepover, There was a phone call, but her mum didn't pick up. A few days later, she apparently got a letter and a package. The letter was something she never showed me, and the package contained another doll that looked like her. Although this doll was bigger and looked slightly older than the previous one. One day, a few months after that, we were playing outside when she asked me to go find the bucket and shovel that she had in her room. When I was searching, I found a stack of envelopes that had all been carefully torn open, all addressed to her, but with no return address. At that age, I knew it would be wrong to look, but I still took a peek at the top one. It wasn't particularly suspicious or creepy. Mostly, it was just describing the writer's day and asking a few questions. It was all written with simple words a child could read, and was pretty normal for a letter. But there was no signature at the bottom. I shrugged it off and found what I was looking for before heading back outside, not thinking at all about the letter. Then her 8th birthday came around. Her mum had gotten sick and was in the hospital, so we were once again being babysat by her brother, who was still far more interested in Call of Duty than our welfare. We had store-bought cupcakes, and I gave her a Barbie doll I had bought with my own money, which I was so proud of, and we went to her room to play. There was a box in the corner of the room, and although it was mostly covered up with tissue paper, I could see blonde hair sticking out of the top end, and knew it was yet another China doll. Something about Macy seemed off. She was super antsy and anxious, always glancing out of the window, and her hands so shaky she would constantly drop whatever toys we were playing with. It was kind of late, and I knew my mum would be coming over to pick me up at any minute. So we were putting all of our toys away when we heard the tap at the window. The man on the other side was completely unfamiliar to me. He didn't look particularly scary. In fact, he was handsome and had wrinkles by his eyes from smiling. He looked to be in his mid-30s, with a clean-shaven face and his dark hair neatly slicked back. I could see the collar of a button-up shirt and the top part of a tie from his position against the window. He smiled as he looked at Macy, but then frowned when he noticed me. Despite him looking friendly, I was always scared of adults, especially ones I had never met or seen before, so I was afraid, and Macy could tell. She just grinned at me and put a hand on my arm, telling me that the man was her daddy, and that he was going to take her out to celebrate her birthday. She said that he could never come before because her mum wouldn't let him, but now he was going to secretly take her out for ice cream. She told me I could come if I wanted, but I just shook my head. She then went out to the front door and began to unlock it, but I stopped her. I told her I didn't want to go, that my mum would come to pick me up, and I would get in trouble. Macy began to pout before locking the door back up and going back to her bedroom, her dad still outside of the window. It took both of our strength to get it open so she could speak, the only thing separating us from him being the flimsy screen. She told him that my mum would come and that she would pick me up, and that by that time it happened, it would be too late to get ice cream. Her dad looked really angry for a minute, before he told her that they would just have to try again another time, and heading back to his truck and leaving. I later told my mum what happened, and in turn, she told Macy's mum. Macy was really mad at me for a while, because her mum burned all of the letters, took away her dolls, and called the police. She got over it eventually though, and to this day hasn't heard a word from her dad. We were 16 when we found out the reason her dad was not allowed. He was apparently incredibly abusive towards Macy's birth mother, and allegedly murdered her. However, due to lack of evidence, he was never convicted of either case. The allegations were enough to have Macy put into foster care system, where she ended up getting adopted. Macy happened to be at her grandmother's when her mum was killed, or committed suicide, which is what her dad said happened, and was never actually told why she wasn't allowed to see her dad until our junior year. When we found out who her dad really was, she started thanking me. I wondered what she was doing, not remembering the time he was at the window on her 8th birthday, until she reminded me. If I hadn't been there, she would have been kidnapped by him, and God knows what would have happened to her. I hadn't thought about it much until today, where her father was convicted for 2 counts of murder. One was Macy's birth mum, which was proven to be murder thanks to new advances in technology. The other was a case that was opened 10 years ago and happened on Macy's birthday. On the night I stopped him from taking her, he confessed that he had planned to kill her that night instead. However, he killed a blonde woman a few times over out of rage. Is there a lesson to be learned here? Never trust your friend's parents, because you never know when they're a murderer. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.